Hi guys and welcome to Prediction Week 6 and we've got a hat-trick of 1-1s for the first 3 games. So let's start with the lunchtime kickoff at 12:30, which is Fulham versus Watford. I think both teams that have started really well in this Premier League campaign. Obviously Watford unlucky to lose to Manchester United last week. I think they should have got at least a point out of that. Great save from De Gea at the end though. Fulham, they didn't really expect much at Manchester City, but they've had an excellent start. Being promoted and coming up into the Premier League, and they've done quite well for themselves. So I think this is going to be a really good game. And as I say, Fulham 1, Watford 1, I think. The second one at 3 o'clock kickoffs now. The second 1-1 game is Manchester United versus Wolves. The reason I've gone for that is, again, I'm not really convinced the way Manchester United are playing at the moment. They have played the Champions League Wednesday as well. I've really been impressed with the way Wolves, again, have been promoted and have not been phased by the Premier League. And I think if they can get at Manchester United, I know it's at Old Trafford, I know it's going to be hard, but I think if they can get at Manchester United, I do think that they can get something out of this game. So that's why I've gone Manchester United 1, Wolves 1. And the last one is Crystal Palace versus Newcastle. I think Newcastle was slightly unlucky not to get, again, at least a point against Arsenal last week, especially in the first half. I think Newcastle were well in the game in the first half, just didn't take the chances. They just can't seem to score at the moment. So I do think they should have got something last week against Arsenal. Crystal Palace, again, not a bad start. Not brilliant, but not a bad start. So again, I think it's going to be a really tough game. Two teams that, again, I think that will be down the bottom fighting for relegation. So again, Crystal Palace 1, Newcastle 1. Leicester versus Huddersfield now. I nearly called that one right last week with Bournemouth and Leicester. That turned out to be a cracking game, didn't it? 4-2. Absolutely cracking game. And we're going to try and go for a cracking game for Leicester again this week against Huddersfield. Again, two teams that like to attack. Not very good at defence, but they love to attack. I'm going to go for another lovely live end-to-end kind of game. So let's hope so. I'm going to go Leicester 2, Huddersfield 2. Leicester seem to have some crazy games, don't they? And Bournemouth as well. I think I remember last year Bournemouth and Leicester had a crazy scoreline. I think it was something like 3-3, something like that. I'm not sure. Something like that is ringing at the back of my mind. I'm sure it was 3-3. They always have some crazy scorelines, Leicester. I really enjoy doing Leicester's predictions. We then have Cardiff versus Manchester City. Again, Cardiff, they were slightly unlucky against Arsenal. Again, just couldn't score, but the chances were there. Slightly unlucky against Chelsea as well. Again, just couldn't score. I can't see them getting anything against Manchester City. I know it's at home, but Manchester City are just a completely different animal. So I'm going to go Cardiff 0, Manchester City 2. But Cardiff have got nothing to be embarrassed about, by that. I can't see many teams beating Manchester City this year, to be honest with you. So, I wouldn't be too downhearted about that if I was a Cardiff fan. And if I was a Cardiff fan, I'd be really impressed with my team as well. That they've gone to, they played against Arsenal and could have got something out of that game. Went to Stamford Bridge, could have got something out of that game. So I think the way Cardiff are going, I think they could, if they can just start putting the chances away, I think they could have a good season. We then have Liverpool versus Southampton again. Champions League for Liverpool in the week. You can't see too much trouble with Southampton at Anfield, but I'm going to give a goal to Southampton, maybe due to tiredness for Liverpool. Again, sometimes they can be quite clumsy at the back, so I'm going to go Liverpool 2, Southampton 1. We then have Burnley versus Bournemouth. Burnley's been really poor this season, not the Burnley that we saw last year. They're just like a shadow of themselves than last year. Again, Bournemouth last week winning 4-2 against Leicester. So their confidence will be really high at the moment. And for that, I'm going to go Burnley 0, Bournemouth 2. At 5:30, we have Brighton versus Tottenham. A loss for Tottenham last week against Liverpool. Again, probably should have got something out of that game. It probably was a penalty as well. Well, it probably wasn't a penalty. It was a penalty. But it wasn't given. They lost. Again, Champions League for them in the week. Lost. But it's at home to Brighton, so I'm going to give a goal to Brighton. But I do see Spurs being the better side, and I think that they should see Brighton off. So I'm going to go Brighton 1, Spurs 2. We now go to Sunday kickoffs. First, we have West Ham versus Chelsea at 1:30. I know that West Ham did beat Everton 3-1 last Sunday, but honest to God, I do think that Everton were the better side. Obviously, West Ham put the chances away, Everton didn't, but I do think that Everton were the better side, and I think that Chelsea will be the better side. Even though it's at home, it's at West Ham. I do think Chelsea will be the better side, and obviously Chelsea will put the chances away. So for that, I'm going to go West Ham 0, Chelsea 2. And again, we have Arsenal versus Everton at 4 o'clock. That's the last game of the weekend. Again, Arsenal, they're creating chances. Again, not scoring too many. Won last week. Lost quite a few, missed quite a few chances as well. It's just that at the back, I can't see the problem causing us much problems. But going forward, I can't see it causing us much problems. But at the back, we're just giving too many chances away. It's almost like you've almost admitted defeat, and like a team's going to score to us every single week. We've already kicked the clean sheet out of our predictions. I do see Arsenal being stronger than Everton at home, but again, I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, so I'm going to go Arsenal 2, Everton 1. Mind you, it'll probably be something really stupidly crazy, like 3-2, 4-3, something like that, the way Arsenal's defence are going, so who knows. Look out for that game on Sunday, Arsenal versus Everton. So that is my predictions for this weekend, guys, and I'll see you next week for next week's predictions. Thank you for watching, guys.